Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Star State podcast. I'm Matthew Brune. Joining me once again is Ishmael Johnson. And Ish, today we are 1 week away from the start of the college basketball season on November 4th. How are you feeling?
Good. This is probably the most, I don't know about you, we'll get into these predictions in a bit, but this is probably the most unknown I've felt about. Usually heading into a year, you have an idea about the contenders, you have an idea about like teams that you're a little worried about, and then you kind of have a good idea about more or less people in the middle, like, oh, this team could be really good. This team, it's a lot of like nebulous teams in the middle. This year, I feel really good about the teams up top. And that's kind of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of unknown for me heading into this year.
Yeah. I will say a lot of the unknown for me comes with teams changing conferences. I mean,
That too.
wow, this is like the WAC is completely different. I
Yeah.
mean, the Southland is completely different. Texas is in the SEC. So quite a few changes here. But we will guide you all through it. And we are going to be doing the men's basketball predictions for all 25 teams in the state of Texas. These are going to be only conference records. That's important to delineate because we're not going to be sorting through all the non-conference schedules and trying to figure out who's going to win what. It's only going to be conference because ultimately that's what matters. Like that's what all these teams are building towards, is having a strong conference season and potentially getting into the tournament with a tournament win or just, an at-large bid. So, yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different conferences spanning the state of Texas, which is crazy. 2 teams that are by themselves. But we'll start at the top. We'll start with the team that has made a lot of headlines, moving conferences, the SEC, Texas, and Texas A&M. We'll start with the Longhorns first. Another year under Rodney Terry, and it is a whole new team. He has revamped it. He blew it up. Let's just call it what it was. He blew it up. Not an experiment, but what they did the past few years, which they did make an Elite Eight run. Some injuries, hampered them quite a bit, but blew it up. Brought in a ton of transfers. We're not going to go, super in depth for every team. We have 25 teams to cover here, but ultimately, really the only guy that he brought back is like Caden Shedrick. And then he brought in a bunch of different guards, Julian Larry, Jordan Pope, Trey Johnson, Tremont Mark, go down the list. And they move into a different conference. So 2 different factors here working when evaluating and trying to predict what Texas is going to be this season. I think for me, it's an 18-game schedule. For me, I'm going to be on the cautious side, I think. And I'm going to roll with a couple games under what I think most people would have them at from a talent perspective, mostly on the principle that I still don't fully trust Rodney Terry, and I think the SEC is actually sneakily might be like competing with the Big 12 for best conference in America. So with those things going hand in hand, I've talked for a long time. Give me 9-9 for Texas.
I was going to say 9-9 as well. I still think it'd be a lot for this team to be put together, obviously with a lot of new players, and improve off of last year. I feel like, they 21-13 last year. Were they in conference? I'll say they were 9-9 last year in conference. So again, I think that last year the Big 12 was probably. I'm comparing this year's SEC to last year's Big 12.
Yeah.
I think last year's Big 12. I don't know if it was tougher or about the same.
Let me see what
I'm expecting from the SEC this year.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have Houston, that kind of I think is the best team of any. Like their last year's Houston's better than any team in the SEC this year, I think. And so sure, if you add them, does it bring the whole conference, make them better? Maybe. I also think Texas might be better on paper than they were last year. So I think about the same is okay. I think that's also good enough to possibly finish 4th or 5th or even in the 6th range in this team, in this conference too.
Which would be great.
Yeah.
the floor is not much lower than what we predicted, I don't think. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think I could see them being worse than 8 and 12. Like, I'm sorry, 8 and 10.
8
Like,
and
I
10.
don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
they could be worse than that. If
Right.
everything clicks, sure, this could be a 12 and 6 team. Like,
Yeah.
this, if the guards play the way they could play, if Trey Johnson is a bona fide top 10 pick and, like, balling out, and then their front court with Kaluma and Shedrick come together, like, yeah, this could be a 12 and 6 team. I'm just not comfortable betting on it right now.
Right. Same.
And maybe that's because of the transfers and Rodney Terry and whatnot, but I'm comfortable at 9 and 9. We both are.
Yeah.
We can move on to the other team in the SEC, Texas A&M.
Let's
You
do
can
it.
go first here with Wade Taylor, Zurich Phelps, and company.
Yeah. I mean, look, we had high expectations for this team last year, right? Very high. We thought this would be a team that would be competing to win the conference.
Yep.
Obviously, they did not do that. They went 9 and 9, I believe, in conference, right?
Yes.
So basically, they're banking on like was last year's issues the fact that they didn't have that secondary score.
Yeah.
Because obviously they bring in Zurich Phillips as their highest caliber transfer.
They are
They bring back
13th.
Henry Coleman.
They are
But
13th in the AP polls.
yeah. So they bring back Henry Coleman. They bring back Manny Obaseki. A lot of guys I really like. But it does come down essentially to that Zurich Phelps and Wade Taylor backcourt. I'll bite. I'll say 11 and 7. I'll bite on it. I think that again, this is going to be really telling year for Buzz Williams because we thought last year was going to be that year, that breakthrough year, and obviously it wasn't. They happened to nearly have a really good playoff run in the
Almost be
tournament.
Houston. Yes.
Yeah, I mean they about to say they blew out a Nebraska team that I was really high on, and then they really almost beat one of the favorites in the country. So I'm going to bet on it, though. I'm going to stay optimistic about this. I'm going to say that they find a way to make the Phelps and Taylor partnership work. I think we'll see a little bit more off-ball Wade Taylor, which I think frees him up to do a little bit more, which I'm very curious about. So
yeah. I'm at 9 and 9, so I
okay.
the same as Texas here.
Yeah.
I think that 11 and 7 is very realistic because I love Wade Taylor. He was my first pick when we did our men's basketball fantasy draft for a reason. He's awesome. At the same time, we have to see. I think the Pharrell Payne addition from Minnesota is huge because I think
That's a big one.
they need a punch in the
Yeah.
front court. No offense to Anderson Garcia and Solomon Washington and Henry Coleman, but these are all like real just tough guys that don't give you a ton offensively. You hope Henry Coleman can, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Payne is going to have to give them that spark. So you add Payne, you add Phelps, you add Wilcher from Nebraska. The talent's there. I'm just not sure I see it making a whole bunch of sense on paper. Zurich Phelps, to me, being one of the saviors to get this team into the top 6 of the SEC does not feel comfortable to me. I'm going to roll with 9 and 9 and kind of similar to Texas. I can't see the floor being much lower here because of the rebounding, because of the experience of Wade Taylor and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
put me at 9 and 9, though. I'll be a pessimist.
Okay.
All right. Moving to the Big 12, Baylor. Baylor
Mm-hmm.
Bears. Predicted number 8 in the AP top 25 to start the year. If I had to guess, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm assuming 3rd in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Behind, oh man, gosh, Big 12. Okay. Kansas is number 1 in the AP poll. Houston's 4, Iowa State's 5, and Baylor is 8. So they are
Yeah.
4th technically going to the year in that regard. The Big 12, though, I will say before we get into all this,
Mm-hmm.
is very top heavy this year.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is not the Big 12 of 3 years ago where they had 10 teams and all 10 of them felt like they were going to punch you in the mouth every time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, the bottom of the Big 12 is not good this year. Oklahoma
Sure.
State is like, if you just go to KenPom, I've never seen this many teams outside the top 70. Like, this is 7 teams outside the top 70 here.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 6. regardless, still a hefty amount of teams here with the new additions of like Colorado and Arizona State and Utah, who are, not great. But regardless, I'm going to go 13-7 for Baylor. I'm going to buy into the backcourt quite a bit. I'm going to buy into Norshad Omier. I think Josh Ojenwuna does enough at the 5 position to put them in that, contending range.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Wait,
Houston
what was your guess again?
13-7.
Okay,
So
yeah, 20.
not they're in the second tier. That's
Yeah,
how I'll phrase it.
yeah,
Houston and somebody else will end up going, 15 plus wins, I think.
yeah.
But the second tier, fighting for that third spot, the fourth spot, Baylor's going to be right there. 13-7, I think, is a comfortable range. Maybe again on a little bit of a lower side, I guess. I don't know. What do you think? Where do you have Baylor?
I have them 14-6.
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect blend of what Scott Drew does. I think does now, which is like veteran point guard, 1 or 2 stars on the wing. Obviously, that's going to be VJ Edgecombe this year.
Yeah.
And then a lot of guys who either have been around or have played a lot of basketball. And I think that this mix every year, I think since Jared Butler, with the Kinjo, and then I'm already forgetting last year. Oh my goodness,
Reggie Dennis.
Reggie Dennis. Every year, it's always like, oh, what let's. I'm curious to see this player right in Baylor. I don't think I'm curious to see Jeremy. I know what Jeremy Roach is. I know that that was a massive. That's the most high profile get they've probably gotten in the transfer portal. And so I feel comfortable knowing like there isn't a confusion of can Ray J Dennis play up to this level? Can a Kenjo do what Jared Butler did? I don't know, man. I think this is just a team that's waiting to really, really show that it's one of the best in the country. I'm still hesitant after last year. I'm still hesitant on Kansas.
Yeah.
Hunter Dickinson, of course, sure, on paper, one of the best players in the country, but wasn't healthy last year, didn't look as great as he did in previous years at Michigan last year. Yeah. I think right now, if I had to pick, it'd be Houston and Iowa State as the top 2 teams. And I don't think Baylor's that far from being in that conversation. So yeah. I personally have Baylor 3rd in that range. So I'm gonna, like I said, I think 14-6 gets it done for me.
Yeah, I like that. I lean towards 14-6 before I lean towards 12-8. Again, I'm probably on the lower side here. Sure. My only question, again, is the center spot with Josh Ojenwuna.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing.
Can Omier play the 5? A lot of different scenarios there, but the guards are just incredible. So
yeah.
Next, this is in no particular order, by the way. This is just how I typed them. TCU coming up. A team that, similar to Texas, except they had to do it out of necessity because they had the oldest team in the freaking country last year, and they're all gone. The only one that returns is the center, Udo, who is a good player as well. But Ernest Ude. Sorry,
Ude. Yeah.
But they add a ton of transfers. It's the hardest team, in my opinion, to evaluate in the state. Trezarian White from UNC Wilmington's a good player. Like Frankie Collins from Arizona State, Vashawn Alette we've talked about from Old Dominion is good. Brendan Wetzel.
If you're gonna be naming all the players on every roster, we're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah, sorry. But anyways, TCU new roster. I have questions. I think the Big 12 is, like I said, top heavy, and they are not in that top tier or the second tier. I think they're going to be competing for that third, maybe tier. Give me TCU at 8-12.
I have them at just slightly better. I have them at 9-11. I think you're right. I think this is a play for next year. I think this is a multi-year thing for TCU. New roster, entirely new roster. With that being said, I think there's more buy-in with that than maybe last year. Last year was a lot of guys who, we wondered how they play together, and turns out they didn't play that well down the stretch. I wonder if there was some alpha, clashing going on here. You have multi-year guys, you have freshmen, you have sophomores. I think it's more of a bought-in group, and I think they look a lot better late than they did last year.
Yeah.
So
and then, who we'll see how the non-conference goes, but 9-11 could maybe get you to the tournament. Be like maybe
Maybe.
a play-in or something. We'll see.
Yeah.
Next, Texas Tech, and I should have said this at the beginning. All these are 20. The Big 12 is playing 20 conference games this year,
Yeah.
so that is important. Texas Tech, Grant McCasland, JT Toppin as the big. That's the only guy I'll name here. But they do return a lot of guys, so I think this is a comfortable team. Give me 11-9 for Texas Tech.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time not being optimistic about this team. Like really optimistic about this team. I think I'm in the same. I think I'm in the same boat.
Okay.
We talked to Grant McCasland, and the question I posed to him was like, this just seems like a team on paper that just slots into place so well, right? You have your shooters, you have your playmakers, you have your traditional bigs. Of course, JT Toppin's going to be the go-to guy, but I think that this is going to be more of a Grant McCasland team, not in the sense of like tempo or pace, but just like you can look back at all of his UNT teams and see those role players, right? And see those defined roles where nobody's out of place and they just kill you with execution, right? They just kill you with how well they're in sync defensively, how well they run that, again, methodical, slow offense, but they run that. They're going to run this. He was like, we're not going to walk it up the floor. But it's almost like whatever they decide to run, they do it so efficiently well. And I think that this Tech team is going to be a lot more indicative of that.
Yeah. All right. And the last team from the Big 12, it's just the Houston Cougars.
No big deal.
Who else? Who else could it be? One of the best teams in the country.
Yeah.
Barring a Jamal Shed injury last year, probably makes a heck of a run in the tournament. And they return everybody but Jamal Shed. Really, they replace him with Milos Uzan, and they beat Texas A&M in a charity exhibition game by like 15 yesterday or 2 days ago. So, I have Houston at 16-4. I think this is going to be one of the best teams in the country. I think
Really?
16-4 represents that. I think they're the best team in the Big 12, and they're going to end up being a 1 seed again. So give me the Houston 16-4.
And I have them 14-6. Yes, the Big 12 is weaker as a whole. I do think we're not underestimating. Everybody knows how good Jamal Shed is. I do think that we're going to see the fact that they're not going to be able to press opposing guards as well as they did last year. Like Jamal Shed was able to, especially because they had, Francis and Juwan Roberts who are still there in the paint. He was able to play so aggressively just to absolutely shut down anybody as soon as they crossed half court. Yeah. That specific element is gone. And I don't know. I think that's going to cost them in more games because I think there were some games that he single-handedly won by just like causing one or two more turnovers than the other team was used to committing. So let me see. I'm trying to think of the games they lost in conference last. So Iowa State, TCU, Kansas, Iowa State in the tournament, and then obviously Duke in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped. Again, I'm picking them to drop 6 total. I don't know. I thought the Baylor games, I felt like was one where Jamal Shed played a big part in.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he was arguably the best defender in the country last year, so you can't really
easily.
It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot to replace.
So yeah, but I'll say 14-6. I still think that may win the conference though. If not 1 or 2. I'm still deciding between them and Iowa State.
So wait, you have Baylor and Houston at 14-6.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think I'm leaning Iowa State to win the conference right now.
Yeah, fair. Okay. Let's jump to the ACC just real briefly. We don't got to stay on them long. SMU wanted to go play in the ACC, so here's your little segment. 20 conference games for SMU. I think the coaches poll had them the media poll had them 13th out of 18 teams in this conference.
Yeah.
The conference is a mess. I don't love the roster construction, but it's year 1 for Andy Enfield. There's not much he could do about it. Like he added a bunch of like good players, like individually, Johan Troyer, Boopy Miller, so on and so forth. I have him at 7-13. I'm gonna buy the lower side. I'm gonna be on the lower side of SMU here, I think, this year.
I think I was going that range, and then Tony Bennett retired. Now I'm like, I think that buys them a couple more.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 9-11. Because I think obviously I don't think Virginia was gonna be a world beater this year, but like seeing that defense for the first time, I think for SMU would have been jarring. And so I think they can now get one of those, if not both of those. I don't know if they play them twice this year. Let me double check on that. They play them once. Okay. So I think that's a game that they can get. And then if they can swing another one, no, they get them twice. They get them twice. So they could win both of those. So long story short, give me 2 games better than that. But like you said, it's another play for next year. He's going to be recruiting his ass off. But they're not a bad team, but it's also the ACC, and they're going to get humbled a couple times against Duke and North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm
and
looking
Clemson,
at it now.
probably Clemson too.
Yeah, they only play. Yeah, the good thing is they do play Virginia twice, and they only play Duke once, North Carolina once,
Yeah.
Pitt once, Clemson once.
I think Duke's at home. I think they get Duke at Moody,
Duke at home,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
like Wake Forest once. So it's a very manageable schedule here, in theory. All right, North Texas. We're jumping to the AAC where they have 18 games. I think this is a very talented North Texas squad. I think Ross Hodge proved last year as the head coach, he can get talent. And if that talent was healthy last year, I think we're looking at that last year very differently. So hopefully they have good injury luck because I think this team is very talented. So give me 13-5 for North Texas.
Okay, 13-5. I don't know. I'm curious because like injuries played a big part in obviously played a big part in last year. I'm gonna go 11-7. Unfortunately, I think this is a good Memphis year, so I think Memphis is gonna win this conference.
It's always a good Memphis year before the year actually starts.
That's a good point. But they stole my boy PJ Haggerty, so I'm actually buying in this year. I'm going 11-7. I think that last year, even with the injuries, I was at the game. I thought one of their best games was the SMU game. I thought the one that they hosted, that they ended up winning. Even in that game, though, it didn't have the same defensive prowess that I'm used to seeing. That I guess I expected to carry over with Ross Hodge. I don't know if that's just because he's opened up the tempo a little bit on offense, so they're not as like controlling in like every aspect of the game that Grant was. But I still think this is still one of the best teams in AAC. It would not shock me if this team won more, but I'm going a little bit more cautious with 11-7.
Yeah. Next up is Rice with Rob Lanier now as the head coach over there. We talked about it. Again, another team with a whole new roster pretty much. Fiedler's gone. Evie's gone. Olivar's been gone, but now he's really gone. Like he's in the NBA at this point.
He made the roster for, I think he got a 2-way with the Lakers.
Two-way with the Lakers. So again, new team for Rice. We talked about their front court, I think, is better than their back court. They're going to defend quite a bit. I think it's going to be a competitive team. I flirted with more wins here, but I just kind of looked at the American. I think Rice is still going to fall into that bottom half somehow. Give me 6-12 for Rice.
I'm kind of more optimistic about them than this. You say 6-12.
Yeah, 9-9.
I'm gonna go 9-9, man.
Ooh.
I think this brand of basketball, we saw last year, can be implemented, right? I think they're just gonna drag teams into the mud, man, and make you frustrated. And I'm curious if they have the group of guys that they brought in that just buy into that. I think that's going to buy them a 500 record. If I had to put money on it, I'd probably lean more your way. But I'm going to believe in this hire because I thought this was a good hire for the AAC. I thought Rob Lanier was a good AAC coach and just not what SMU obviously needed when they were going to another conference.
Yeah. All right. Next up is UTSA with new head coach Austin Clonch. I'll let you go first here. Are you also high on the Roadrunners?
Not as high in year one because I think he's building. I think what Austin Clonch can do and Rob Lanier can do, I think Claunch has a lower floor year one.
Yeah.
I think that it's very easy if you're Rob Lanier to go in and basically make every game into a rock fight. Claunch is going to want to run the ball a little bit, run tempo, I should say. And UTSA, I think right now that takes some guys, right? And they may not have the guys right now. So I'm going to be a little bit pessimistic about this one. I'm probably going to go 5-13. Yeah, I think they'll be record-wise one of the worst, but I think by the end of the year we're going to be like, there was something that they were doing that we liked a lot. Him in particular, Claunch in particular, is going to be more of a, we're going to recruit, we're going to get some of these guys. It's going to be more than a couple years to get this program in order.
Yeah. I have him at 6-12. Along the same lines of you. I think it'll take a little bit. I do like the talent that they acquired, from a raw talent perspective. So I gave them that extra win or two. 6-12 in year one would not be terrible.
No. I think that, yeah. I mean, you're looking at the backcourt. I think the backcourt of Wicks and was it Primo Spears? That's gonna be fun.
Primo Spears.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. But they're just probably not gonna be that big
on the wing.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, when's the last time UTSA won 6 games in conference?
Good point.
This is we might have to go back to the Javon Jackson days. You definitely do have to go back to the Javon Jackson days.
You literally do have to go back to Javon Jackson.
I'm looking at him right now. Oh no,
7-11. I think
Javon
Keaton Wallace just made a roster.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I forgot who, but he just got signed by some. He gets the Hawks. There you go. He made the Hawks roster. So good for him.
Yeah.
Shout out to Better Times at UTSA.
There you go. 2021. Last time they did it. God. Since then, 3-15, 4-16, and 5-13. So hey, 6-12. That would be a great year.
I'm Googling Javon Jackson right now to see what he's up to.
Probably back in Puerto Rico.
He's in Germany.
Okay.
There you go.
Good. Not Puerto Rico. All right. UTEP. Let's keep going. UTEP. We're jumping to the Conference USA. Only 2 teams in here, UTEP and Sam Houston. We'll start with the Miners. Joe Golding, Otis Frazier was on the all-conference team going into the year. I think I'm just buying Joe Golding has his guys in order.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough talent, though. I just don't think there's enough talent. So you can buy it higher than this, but I'm still think honestly, Conference USA is not a bad basketball.
They're 7-9 last year.
I think there's 18 games this year, or
there's 18. There's 18 games this year.
I wrote down for 18.
Yeah,
8-10 for UTEP.
Oh,
there's no way they end up with a winning record.
Really?
Okay, what do you have 10-8? Because this will be good.
10-8, man.
All right, 10-8.
I got 10-8. Look, wow. I agree. Maybe it's a lot of me just trusting him. I think UTEP's big problem is in a lot of ways NIL as well, right? They can't go get guys that would ideally fit what he does as easy as some other mid majors. The fact they were to hold on to these guys, I think, is
they return some dudes.
They returned some dudes, and I think that they got better. The issue last year was that nobody else besides Tay Hardy could create anything. I think even he was kind of limited as a player as well in some situations. I think Devon Barnes is an upgrade there. Okay. Maybe offensively, maybe not defensively, but offensively, I think he is.
Yeah, offensively.
And I think that's enough. I think the defense is going to be enough team-wise. I think another year, David Terrell. I'm going 10-8. I'm gonna be optimistic. I think this is the year that we see a turnaround.
That'll be the story.
This is the year.
There you go. Clip it, UTEP. Clip it. Next, Sam Houston State. One of the favorites in the conference every year. Doesn't matter what conference they're in, honestly.
Doesn't matter who's their head coach.
It doesn't matter. They're competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are going to be just like they've always been, very competitive. I like what they have in terms of Lamar Wilkerson coming back, Damon Nicholas coming back. They add Josiah Hammonds from Incarnate Word. So
13-3 last year.
Give me 13-5 this year.
Okay, I agree. I'm going to agree with that. They were one of the best offenses in the country, or excuse me, at the mid-major level, they're one of the best offenses.
Yeah.
They shoot the three really, really well. I'm curious if that sustains itself. I think they almost shot like 40% as a team in conference. But regardless, Chris Mudd shows that he's just going to keep it rolling from what Jason Hooten built. I am curious about, they have what Western Kentucky's kind of rated high, and I'm like, I don't know. Losing Steve Lutz hasn't that high for me. La Tech, I think, is gonna be really good, and Liberty's gonna be really good. So, like, I think they're probably that third, maybe fighting for that second. But right now, give me that same range.
Steve Lutz just went to Western Kentucky for a road trip, basically.
Hey, listen, he's like, hey, I'm trying to get out of here, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm trying to parlay this.
Made the tournament and got out of there.
Hey, look, it worked.
It did work. All right, moving over to the WAC. We have 3 teams here. I remember we used to have like 6 teams in this conference. Now it's 3.
Back in my day.
Abilene Christian, UT Arlington, and Tarleton State are the next 3. Abilene Christian, starting us off here. I think Abilene Christian, again, just going into the year. Last year we didn't talk about ACU a ton, because it was just not a ton to talk about.
No, I'm maybe it's a money thing. I'm stunned they held on to Brett Tanner.
Yes, Brett Tanner.
I think it might be a money thing, but I don't know, man.
Abilene Christian, last year into 10-10 overall, made it to the second round of their tournament and conference. I have him in the same range. I have him at 8-8. So I might be on the high side too, because looking at the roster, I don't love it. So I'm just gonna just roll out 8-8.
Yeah, let's see, where were they last year? They were
8-8 or 10-10.
10-10 last year. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Like Grand Canyon is gonna beat them twice. The Utah schools are pretty good. Like, or not Utah.
UT Arlington,
Valley, UT Arlington.
I would pick UT Arlington right now over them.
Yeah.
Give me 7 and 9.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't love this team defensively, and that's been their calling card. I don't know. I'm not like, and their roster doesn't strike much optimism either.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling.
Yeah.
UT Arlington, another team that has a ton of turnover here. Yeah. I put them as one of the top front courts in the country, though. I mean, they have it's all new, but like Lance Ware from Villanova, Rayshon Seamster, go down the list of players that should be able to play at this level for UT Arlington. I think it'll be good. I believe in the coaching, I think they're good. KT Turner, 10-6,
13-7 last year.
Yeah, I got 10-6 for UT Arlington this year.
Sounds about right. I can agree with that. I mean, the fact that he was able to get as much talent in last year to be able to have that record after what they'd gone through, and then I think that signals something better, right? I think that signals that you have something on your hands in terms of scouting and development. So I'm going to trust this roster construction again, and so I think this is a team that's going to be punching towards the middle. Would not shock me to see them make a run in the tournament or something, conference tournament.
Yeah. Tarleton State up next.
Oh God!
Now
this is the look how they massacred my boy meme from
Billy Gillespie returns.
Yeah,
but he does lose. Why am I blanking on the name of the assistant coach that's at UTSA now? Joseph Jones.
Joseph Jones
yes. Goes to UTSA after he basically led them last year. So now we're going to be back to Tarleton State basketball, Gillespie ball.
Nasty.
I don't expect it to be pretty, but they do return Freddie Hicks, who is a quality player.
Yes.
Ultimately, I do think that they just kind of find ways to win games, and I'm going to be optimistic here. I'm going to go Tarleton State 9-7.
I can vibe with that, because we should mention that Tarleton was never bad under Billy Gillespie, right? Like, they were always, that's why he was so fun, was because he had them kind of punching to the middle of the pack with like the most unwatchable basketball ever. But like, I think this year you look at this roster. I think this is a roster that shows that Billy Gillespie's in it for the long haul. It's a lot of freshmen, right? There's a lot. I like the class, right? I think that guys like Jordan Mazzell and Keaton Bristow, who 2 state championship tournament players last year, really underrated pickups. But I think that that's going to show that I think Billy Gillespie is here for the long haul after, health scare last year. Obviously didn't. I think he finished the year. Or maybe he might have been behind the scenes last year finishing there. But regardless, I'm gonna lean 7 and 9. No, I'll go 8 and 8. I'll give him 8 and 8.
I was gonna say, so you're not vibing with 9 and 7.
Yeah, I'll go 8 and 8 a little bit. Just it'll be a young team, but that style has gotten them that 500 mark basically since he's been there.
Yeah. All right. Next, Texas State. I'll let you go first on your boys.
Oh man, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm going 9 and 9. I do not know what to think about this team. Again, it depends on Tyrell Morgan staying healthy, Caden Gum staying healthy. That's basically. Here's the problem: those 2 players are the only rooms for optimism on this team right now. Right, hometown kid. You kind of lucked into Caden Gums. He's a hometown kid who went to San Marcos High. You got to hope that Tyrell Morgan stays healthy because I just do not know. Like Drew Drennan, not a fan of what he did last year. And it's also an indictment, in my opinion, of TJ that you see guys like Nate Martin going to Marshall, I think it was, and doing well. I forgot the guy who went to James Madison, but there was another player they lost, another big, who's doing well, who did well at James Madison. So it's like, I don't know, man. This is going to be a small team too. So I'm going optimistically 9 and 9.
Yeah, I'm 9 and 9 as well. I do think Morgan and Gums should keep them competitive for the most part. So
yep,
we'll see. All right, moving to the Southland, we got 6-7 teams in the Southland now. So this is
I forgot those so many.
Is Texas Conference, if I've ever seen one. UTRGV first up, 7 and 13. 7 and 13.
Yeah, I mean,
the analysis is not in me right now, but 7 and 13. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it's not great. I'm honestly surprised you're going that high.
You can go lower.
The problem is there's worse teams out there.
There are worse teams in the Southland. So this is the thing with RGV.
Give me 6 and 14. Give me 6 and 14.
Good.
Yeah,
I don't think RGV is good, but in the Southland, there's a reason why they're like picked 7th or something like that. Like there's a reason why KenPom has them going into the year. And I did not use this for all of my means, but KenPom has them at 9 and 11 in conference. KenPom has them as the 307th ranked team in the country.
Oh my God, it's such a bad conference.
307th ranked team, and they're 9 and 11 on KenPom. I can't go that high. I'm 7 and 13. But like,
give me 6 and 14.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I was gonna go lower, and then I remembered who else is in that conference. And I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. It's probably not that bad.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Stephen F. Austin, newcomer here.
Newcomer again,
just moving out everywhere. We know McNeese is the best team in this conference. So SFA is not expected to win it, but I think they are pretty comfortably the second best team. I think Nichols is going to be decent. Corpus Christi we'll get to. Lamar, but I think SFA is better than all of them. So put me at 15 and 5 for SFA. I think they do have enough talent. And they had some transfers I really like on the front court. And they added Chris Johnson from Texas, who if it works, then we're going to be watching a lot of Stephen F. Austin games because that will be fun.
I agree. I think that's about. I'm gonna go 16 and 4.
Okay.
And mainly because I think there's a good chance McNeese goes unbeaten in the conference. And so I think did they go unbeaten? They had one loss last year.
They won loss.
Yeah, so I think there's a good chance McNeese goes unbeaten. So I think that still doesn't win the conference, but they're a distant second in both directions, as by far the second best in terms of not being close to McNeese right now, and then also being that much better than probably, I don't know, Nichols maybe, I think.
Yeah, somewhere in that realm.
Yeah.
Next up, Incarnate Word, who every single year they have like productive guards that they
Yeah.
end up just losing, and so it's a reset every year. I mentioned this in our draft podcast. Jalen Anderson from Ball State averaged like 15 a game. I like him. I like
Hmm.
Sean Robinson, who I ended up picking as in our fantasy draft. So I
Hmm.
do think there's some talent here. Like there are some players who should be able to compete in this conference. Put me at 9 and 11 for Incarnate Word.
Give me. I'm going 8-12, just because there's a team that I'm a little bit more optimistic about that I think will get a couple games off of them. So
Fair, very fair. Again, these are in no order, so we're just going up and down, up and down.
yeah.
Houston Christian up
Oh my god.
next here.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Ken Palm
All
has him
right.
at 350 in the country going into the year.
They have not
Uh,
finished higher. I'm just looking right now
I'm
at the Ken
sorry,
Palm.
not even 350, 357.
They have not finished higher than 333 since 2018 in Ken Palm.
That's painful.
This is a bad spot. Now, the interesting thing here is they have a new head coach, Craig Doty. I don't know if you know how that head coaching search went down, as far as like it was very controversial. Because there is I forgot his name. There is another, I'm looking it up right now. There's another area in the Houston coach. This is way too much time on Christian, but
That's okay.
whatever.
Go ahead.
There's another head coach in the Houston area that is non D1. I believe it is. I'm gonna forget his name. Somebody's gonna say in the comments or something, but who would have been a shoo-in for this job?
Yeah.
Craig Doty happens to have certain connections that kind of spearheaded his career. He's the head coach at Emporia State. Emporia State's a D2 school. Before that, he was at an NAIA school. So he's made a massive jump in like 5 years from NAIA to Houston Christian. From what I understand and what I'm very curious about is he's related to somebody who can potentially put some money into this program. And I'm wondering if that plays into, one, why he obviously got the job, but what's their recruiting look like as far as the portal is concerned? Obviously, it's Houston Christian, so they're not going to go get a Jeremy Roach. But, like, I don't know. I don't see that player yet on this team's roster, right? There isn't like they got this guy this year. But that's just something to watch. I don't know if I can make a judgment on the hire yet because I don't know if it was made for this year. I do think this is going to be somebody that we see coming into a recruiting landscape that maybe has them punching up higher than what they are. So that's all I'll say. With that being said, this year, yeah, give me like 6 and 14.
Love it. All right. I didn't even write down their names on the banner. Let me get it back here. I skipped them on accident. A&M Commerce. A&M Commerce. I would never skip Lamar. We love Lamar. A&M Commerce.
Sorry.
No,
I didn't.
It's
I
okay.
misread something. I misread
you have froze when you did it, so I didn't know if you were saying something at the time.
My bad. No, I misread something. So go ahead.
Regardless, A&M Commerce is projected to be the worst team in Texas. I will say I did look at KenPom for this one. 360th ranked team in the country, which is rough because last year they weren't the worst team. They were 6 and 12. They ended the year 333rd in the country. So I looked at them and I looked at their roster and I didn't hate it. Like I mean, it's not great, but I mean I thought they'd be a little better than higher than that. But 4 and 16. That's my prediction.
Yeah. Give me the same. Yeah, that's gonna be the same. I don't know, man. This team has not been good since they jump up.
Yeah.
Like just at all. So
all right. Lamar.
By the way, the head coach's name, Anthony Medina, was the head coach's name that I was trying to remember. He's at St. Thomas now. Would have been a shoo-in for that job if there weren't potentially other factors at play. So anyway, go on.
Lamar, basketball.
Mm-hmm.
This is you go first because I think this is, I'm assuming, or was it Corpus Christi, the one you were higher on?
I mean, I'm higher on Corpus Christi, but I give me 11 and 9 for Lamar.
I
I
have the
think
same.
that this was a total tear down rebuild. And last year they started to show what Alvin Brooks has been doing. They were 12-6 last year. Again, you add in a better team into that conference, into that mix above them in SFA, and yeah, sure, they'll probably get knocked down a couple pegs, but I still think this is a pretty good team. So I'm in on Lamar, both men and women being really good this year.
Yeah, they added Terrence Dixon from North Texas, who I like. Jay Sean Jackson returns, like BB Knight, Cody Pennebaker. I think there's talent on this team. Good returning core. 11-9 is where I also have Lamar. So, there you go. And then the last team in the Southland, A&M Corpus Christi.
Woo!
What do you got?
So what I have SFA at again? Let me double check.
16-4. You had them at
16-4. I'll go 14-6. I think this is a team that returns everybody, basically.
Yeah.
Jim Shaw proved that he could keep this ship right. And I think, let me see their losses. McNeese, of course. I mean, McNeese by 1.
They should have won that McNeese. I remember texting Will Wade after that game, being like, "Wow, how did you win that game?"
Yeah. So a lot by 3 to New Orleans, by 1 to McNeese, by looks like about 8 to McNeese, and then by 4 to Nichols.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, I think this is a team that's ready to punch up. So again, I don't think that this will be I think McNeese runs away with this conference, but give me them probably third.
All right. I have 13-7. So one behind you.
Yeah.
All right. The SWAC.
Oh Lord.
Wrap it up here. I really do miss the days where Prairie View and Texas Southern were like battling it out as two of the top teams in the conference.
Yeah, Prairie View. We got some problems.
Prairie View has some problems, and that's who we're starting with here. So Prairie View, the SWAC always beats each other up for the most part. Like, it's not like again, the Southland, we anticipate there being a large gap between the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
In the SWAC in general, it's not that significant. Like last year, Grambling went 14-4, Alcorn 13-5, but even then, they were still in like the low 200s of KenPom, and so you have them, like, the range is still realistic, unlike the Southland, where they're so. Prairie View last year went 10-21 overall, 5-13 in conference. I'm gonna have them a little bit better. Just looking at the roster, trying to see maybe optimism here. I'm hoping that I'm right. 8-10 for Prairie View.
Yeah, I mean, their defense was just horrendous last year. I think they were last in the conference in almost every defensive metric.
I mean, yeah, them and Mississippi.
Give me 7-11. Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more pessimistic about them.
Yeah,
they just haven't been that great. Now, looking at Texas Southern.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Transition.
I see. So, of course, we always make fun of their scheduling because they have to schedule really tough to get these money games. There are some games on here that I think Texas Southern can win in this non-conference schedule. And I think that spells to how optimistic I am about them in conference. I look at Texas State. I look at.
Yeah, this isn't like a normal.
Abilene Christian. Like it's very there's a lot of like, it's not like they're. Let me see. Who's the hardest team they put? Xavier by
Xavier
far.
To open the year on the road, yeah.
Because usually there's like a Kansas in there. They play Purdue. They play Purdue. Look, this is Texas Southern last year played Purdue, Creighton, Drake, New Mexico. Right? This is a lot more manageable of a schedule.
2 years ago they played Houston and Kansas and Auburn
and Texas
Tech.
That's stupid. Yeah. So look, I'll say this. There's some again. They'll still finish with a losing record in non-conference, obviously, whatever. Texas State and Abilene Christian in particular, I think, are games that I would not be shocked if they won. With that being said, translating that to conference, they have to shoot the three better. They were one of the worst teams. Somehow they still had the year they did in conference by shooting like sub 35% or something from three. I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic, and I'm going to say about 10-8.
They shot 31% from three
Jesus, I
in
didn't know it was that much worse.
314th in the country last year. Conference, it was a little bit better.
It was a little
33%.
better, but that's bad.
I do think in the SWAC, when you have two returning bigs the way that they do with Kenny Hunter and Grayson Carter,
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
big
that
deal.
actually means something. I think having that type of size in the SWAC is important.
Sure.
Put me down at what did you say for yours?
10-8.
10-8. Hell, 12-6. Texas Southern. Let's go. Let's go, Texas Southern. TSU.
Okay,
12-6.
let's go.
We're doing this thing. We need one of these SWAC teams to
I
get
was
it
about to say
together.
we come on
Come
now.
on
I
now.
want to be celebrating this conference again.
Give us something here. The Southland started stepping up with Lamar and Corpus Christi. We'll see if the WAC can do anything. But yeah, Texas Southern, 12-6. All right, there it is. There's 25 teams in about 50 minutes. So hey,
There we go.
efficient. We'll be back later this week with the women's basketball predictions. Y'all can tune into that here as well. And yeah, that's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the podcast. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you have not already. We appreciate all the support, and we will talk to y'all later.